Hello, and welcome to another TMRN Time Monk Radio Network production. I'm McLaren, and today is Saturday, the 3rd of December, 2011. Joining us today is George Ure. In addition to being a friend of Cliff High, George runs the urbansurvival.com and peoplenomics.com websites, wherein he provides commentary, news, and analysis covering economics, world events, and preparing for or coping with an uncertain future. Hello, George, and welcome to the Time Monk Roundtable.
Thank you. I apologize for not being more timely in our previously scheduled encounter, but emails sometimes don't make it to where they are supposed to in this day and age.
Yeah, we know I have personal experience of things bouncing around the internet in an inappropriate way. We're glad that you're here with us now.
Thank you.
The Time Monk radio administrator is Fox, and today he will be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us for this discussion. They include members Ellery, Green Meadow, Romans, and Skyhenge. For listeners to this interview, we are assuming you have a fairly good understanding of George's views, work, and the premises that underlie his thinking. Again, his website is urbansurvival.com. This interview will be available for free on YouTube, at the Time Monk radio channel, and at the website webbotforum.com. Are you ready to begin, George?
Absolutely.
Terrific. We've organized our questions for the roundtable into several different sections. The first section is going to be on survival and preparedness, and our first question for you will come from Ellery.
Hello, George. Thanks again for doing the interview.
Oh, not a problem.
All right, my question is this. There seems to be only a few directions that preppers believe the future will hold for us eventually. Examples like new paleo existence. Is the possibility that the total destruction of the established system makes technology useless and people will be forced to cope with ancient techniques again. Or transitional, the scenario that plays out that only a true partial collapse, but the new system is established within our lifetime. The new system will be difficult to imagine now, so it's best to prep for the tribulation, not continual disasters. Or even the rebuild, a collapse of order in such a way that allows for the salvation of technology and system, but a new social order will be needed to be established. I'm sure you could think of more, but these tend to be the most prevalent. What do you believe to be the most likely to happen and why? And is there one that you think or believe is highly unlikely and why?
I wish I could rule out all the ugly cases, but I can't. The fact is we live in a multidimensional world where a very wide range of possible futures is before us, and any of us who take the task of divining the most likely future seriously are confronted really with some monumental problems. And I guess we should enumerate what those are. First is the matter of partial collapse. One of the discussions I've had recently with some friends is, can we see a contained global financial meltdown in the case of Europe and not expect that will bring down the rest of the world's economy? It's a very interesting problem. On the one hand, we know that Eurozone problems have become an epidemic of sorts. The question whether the most recent action by the combined central bankers essentially agreeing among themselves to make money much looser and much more available to, who else? The bankers, so that they can go off and try to keep all of their paper abstractions fully functional. The problem is that within the EU, there are some countries which actually may end up better off without the EU surviving. I'm thinking in particular of Germany, where the country has a very long history of excellent craftsmanship, of thrift and industriousness, versus some of the other countries, which are much much more free, I guess would be the way to put it, with their social spending and their social commitments. So, how can you have a highly industrious country with a strong work ethic coexisting using the same currency as a country which has very high social spending, institutionalized socialism, and expect anything other than a bad ending at some point? So I think the euro problem is not going away anytime soon, and essentially what Bernanke and the other central bankers have done is they're trying to slow down the way the game is played. Much as in a National Football League contest, you'll see that the last 2 minutes of the game can last with commercials 20 minutes. I'm sure you're familiar with that. The same kind of thing may be in play with the end of the current financial paradigm as it works out globally. We have a good likelihood that we're in the final 2 minutes of play at some level. We don't know who the winning teams are going to be, but we know that we're getting all kinds of timeouts, and that's causing markets to be very confusing. Sometime this coming week, when Cliff's new report comes out, he'll outline some of the details about what's expected in March. But I think it's safe to preview that by just giving a very broad brush that we'll have a protracted release period from perhaps mid-March, pretty much out through at least early 2013. There aren't too many things that come to mind which can cause that kind of release language. And as I look at the macro econ picture, which is my perspective, I can see a case where when we look at the recent peak in the stock market, we have completed wave one down in Elliott wave terms. We're in the process of finishing up wave two, which is our bounce off the 10,000 level. But what follows that will likely be the beginning of wave three. And wave three is in economic wave theory, where the largest declines occur in three wave moves, or where the second largest declines occur in five wave moves. And so as we look out toward the first part of 2012, we can very easily construct a scenario where the market trades sideways to upwards over the next several weeks, perhaps even through Christmas, end of year. And some folks like Robin Landry are projecting the 12,400 Dow level. But unfortunately, that begins to come to an end in early January. The prospects, the economic bases for a continued economic recovery become very questionable. We had an example this week when the Labor Department released the newest unemployment figures. Yes, the unemployment figures managed to reflect an improvement in the unemployment rate to 8.6%. But the aware observer, upon closely reading that data, would notice that I believe it was 315,000 people simply disappeared from the workforce. Obviously, if you shrink the size of the workforce far enough, you can make the unemployment rate come down to zero. Unfortunately, that's what happened in the report. 300,000 members of the workforce disappeared, and the CES birth death model, which is an estimate, a statistical dart that tries to make an educated guess as far as new jobs created in the economy, accounted for 100,000 new jobs. So while it looked good in the headlines that the Labor Department was able to honestly, at least statistically, argue that 120,000 new jobs had occurred, 100,000 new jobs were estimated, and 315,000 people just decided they no longer needed to work. Or some of those maybe went back to Mexico, or maybe some of that was just retirement. We have a very hard time drilling down into the underlying data supporting some of those notions. Nevertheless, we sit back and we look now at this collision period that should occur sometime after the first of the year. What would surprise me least, and which would be consistent with what's coming up in Cliff's next report, with what looks like it could occur in financial long wave terms, would be a market break during the month of January, perhaps going down as much as maybe 20-25%, just like we had in a couple of day period in 1987. Then I can envision, and that would be what we would call wave A or wave small one of this larger third leg down beginning. We could then have a very sharp rally, or at least a modest sideways move from, say, Dow 10,000 back up to, I don't know, Dow 11,000, something like that. But then where we are left, again, this is in wave theory, is we're left with a very high probability that we will go down and take out the Dow 6627 level, which was registered in the spring of 2009. Now, the problem we have is that the spring 2009 low was really the low of the larger wave one down. You'll recall that a couple of years earlier, the Dow was up around 14,000, and it dropped to 6,600, call it. And one of the rules of wave theory is that wave three is always at least as large as wave one. And so if we notice that the Dow dropped 8,000 points, roughly from 14,000 down to the 6,600 level, and then we take an upcoming high of, let's say, 12,500, and we take out 8,000 points from that level, beginning with a major decline in March, then we quickly go through the old low, and one of the most common wave three formations is a Fibonacci sequence where the third wave down becomes 1.618 times whatever wave one was. So you're talking then potentially, and I worked some of the numbers out on the Peoplenomics site earlier this week,